Hello and welcome everybody to the Saturday stream. This is our Fantasy Grounds map and image creation, and I'm Josh. So thanks everyone for joining me today. Hopefully everyone's having a great week and enjoying all of your gaming sessions and whatnot. So we're going to get right into this today, working more with some of these tools and whatnot. I guess the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build a mirror for Drake, seeing as how he's having a hard time with this. So I'm going to go through the steps that I kind of put together in this creation process. Um, it's super simple. He actually gave me a couple of different images here, and I'm going to show you guys how you can use this. And this is the same kind of techniques that we've used many, many times in the past. Super easy to do, so we'll just kind of jump right into it here. So we have two different images here. We have this one, which is going to be kind of what's inside of the mirror itself, and here is the mirror. And I'll show you guys some of the different tools that you can use to enhance these and really kind of bring these things together here. So basically this is just like a frame. And what we can do is there's a couple of different ways we can start here. We can just create a new image record, and you can see this is the final result that I kind of put together here. If you guys are unfamiliar with this, when you create a new record, if it has one that has been done previously, then what it will actually do is just pull up the record. It'll automatically search for the name and make sure that you don't make a duplicate by accident here. So what we're actually going to do is go into our image listing over here, and we're just going to right click and create a new item. And now what we can do is let's close this down. And what I'll actually do here is just make this a decent size so we have an area to work with. Let's do this all in like a painting layer. And so I'm going to go into the painting tab. I'm going to select my stamp tool. We can drag and drop this guy right in here and just stamp that image just like this. Now anything that we want to do from here on out, we can either do it on this particular layer itself, or we can make several different layers. But I think for this is going to be pretty simple, so we can pretty easily just keep it all on one layer here. The one thing that we can do in addition to this is we can add some effects layers, so we can do a lot of the color adjustments and whatnot there. But we can also do it with the stamping right here, right? So what we can actually do is we can come into here because the background is black. Anything that we kind of do here, you see, is just going to affect this frame. But one of the things that you want to be watching out for, and we can kind of just like select, maybe we want to make it like a like a bronzy kind of thing. Maybe we'll make it a little bit more reddish, something like this. So you can kind of adjust these colors to wherever you'd want to, and easily interact with that system here. And you can see I could stamp this, make sure we have this there, and hit OK. And then we can just kind of stamp this down. Then we can go into our selection tool, and we can just grab this one and delete it. So here we have something like this. Now the next thing we can do is we're going to go into our ellipse tool here. We're going to turn off our stroke, and we're going to move over into our fill. And we can drag and drop this right in here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try and match up, create like an oval, something like this. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of like eyeball it so it's pretty close. It doesn't have to line up. The size doesn't have to be exact or anything along those lines, because what I can do is I can come back into my edit mode and I can double click this, and then I can kind of move this where I think I want it to be. From here, what I can actually do is start to make some minor adjustments. So we'll move some of this stuff in a little bit, just kind of get this into the general shape that we want to do. So I could grab these, for example, and move them out a little bit. Do the same on this side. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my edit fill here, and we want to line this up a little bit, and then we can actually make it a little bit smaller, so it's going to actually kind of fit into our area here a little. Now we're going to have a little bit on the top and bottom, but that's okay, because what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hold down F, and I'm going to fade out that edge, so that what we're actually going to do is we're going to get this nice kind of transition here. And we can come back in here and readjust these and move this around if we want to. It's super easy to do. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my edit fill, and I can adjust the colors in here as well. Let's line this back up pretty well, something like this. And we want to do something that's a little bit contrasty with the outside here. So all we want to do is maybe remove some of that red and green, but we want to make something that's going to be, maybe something like this. And we can do all kinds of additional adjustments to this as well. You can see this is all on one layer now. And let's say we want to make this seem a little bit more magical in some way or another. Well, we can go into, we can do it a couple of different ways here. We can use some animated textures, or we can just use some effects layers. So if I go into my effects tab, for example, I can drop something down like water. I'm just going to make it all wiggly like this. And we can actually create a mask here. And what we want to do, we don't want to duplicate our layers mask. What we actually want to do is create a mask here. So we're just going to click this little plus button right here. And what I can do from here is I can just hold down my Alt key, and I can just draw out where I want this to be revealed, right? And this, again, doesn't have to be exact. We just want to get something that's kind of similar, because we can kind of blur those edges out as well and make a nice little transition here. We might want to increase the droplet, right, but lower down the intensity and the speed. Maybe we'll do the speed something like this. And lower down the horizontal movement here. Maybe something like that. The next thing that we can do is we can go into, like, let's say, for example, the new Grasslands art pack. And in here we have some, like this animated water overlay. And we can actually come in here and do something very, very similar. We can grab this and drop it in here. And again, what we can do, and we can do this actually with the line tool as well. Let's see here. I was wondering if there was a good way to organize assets. I have the map subscription, but I have so many modules, other sources, that it's hard to find the map assets I want. Anyway, okay, so all of our official images, and you can do this with your own naming convention as well. But what we can actually do is kind of jump in here, and if you hover over any of these images, you'll see that there's this underscore and then additional elements here. So we have ground, dirt, fill, for example. So let me just pop up out of here. So for example, if I want to use a fill image, maybe I'm not exactly sure. And if I type this in, you're going to get all of the different elements that are have fill tag kind of put in there, right? So you can see ground fill and so on. And so what you can actually do is you can find all of these different elements very, very quickly, as long as you have a general idea of what you're looking for. So let's say, for example, we're looking for furniture. We can just kind of type this in, and we're going to get all the different elements that might have furniture in there. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of organize those things, but you can name your own things as well. So if you have any particular image that you want to have some sort of easy searchable element that is associated with it, then you can just put an underscore in its naming, and whatever word is separated by those underscores. So if we go into, let's say, the 2019 art pack, if we go into our tiles here, you'll see that we have here ground, grass, underscore tile, and so on and so forth. So if we go up, let's go into like our decorations here. And you'll see here, again, we have grass, decoration, and so on. Yep, you can define a palette that is specific for groupings of images with that as well. Yeah, I actually checked it out last week. It's very cool. But if you want to use the search functionality to quickly find anything that you're looking for, you can just name it like that. You can follow our own naming convention, but you can literally use anything that you wish to do that. So here I'm gonna do this on a separate layer because I might want to put this down below or above this, and I'm going to use the line tool. And all I'm going to do is just I'm going to start to I just click, and you can see that I have a line that's kind of drawn out here, and then I'm going to click again, and we're going to do this kind of rough around here, so you can see that I can just kind of begin to fill out like this animation. And don't worry about it being a little bit over the top here at first, because what we're going to actually do is let's make this a bit smaller, and we can kind of rotate it here a little bit. We might even want to rotate the whole thing, change its size, and again we can kind of fade out those edges. And I'm going to use the alpha channel to kind of like bring it down, and we can even drop it underneath the water so it gets a little bit more interaction there. And we can change its color as well, so maybe we're going to kind of keep it in with like this bluish kind of theme here. Maybe bring down that alpha just a little bit, make it a little bit more, as you can see here, a little bit more subtle. So you can see all of these different techniques you can do to enhance any of your handouts as well. So if you have a particular handout that you're using in a module and you want to kind of bring a little bit more motion to it, make it a little bit more interactive, our system here is completely set up in such a way that there's no distinction between the different image elements. And so our mapping system and the handout system, all of it is the same exact kind of iteration here. So you can use all of these different elements together to kind of create some really cool and fun stuff, especially with all of these new features. So here we've created really quickly and really easily this interactive space here, right? And let's say, for example, you wanted to do something that was and all of this updates for your players in real time, right? So if you have this open with your players, and we're on this layer, which is underneath this magical element here, so you could actually fade this in just by using A on your keyboard and using your mouse wheel, and you'll have that an interactive kind of space there. If you were to separate these images and have them on different layers, you could even have different images that you're going to have in there and show them at any time that's necessary. Let's say that this was some sort of like scrying mirror or something along those lines. And you can take any element that you might want to be using in your games. Let's say, for example, if you have some illustrations of some different places, you can just take those. So let's say, for example, if we were to look at, I might have a couple of images in here that we can just kind of grab. This is just in the core RPG that I actually kind of set this stuff up. So anything along those lines you can kind of use. And I've kind of shown how you can interact with a lot of these things previously. But let's see, I might have like maybe it's in, let's go into this data folder. And if you guys don't know the difference between the data folder and the campaign folder, the image data comes from a conglomerate. It's in the base image folder, and it will be shared across all of your different elements. And then all of your different campaigns. And then what you can actually do is separate things into your campaign as well, so they'll be specific to those particular areas. Oh, this is a Krampus thing that I did a while back. We could do something with this, for example. And so if you have like an image like this, right, you don't need to just drag and drop this in. You can actually use these in exactly the same kind of way here, right? So let's say we were going to do something in this area here. And I'll show you guys a really simple way. If you ever do this in the past, if you have put things on the same layer and now you want to separate them, all you have to do is duplicate this layer, right? So I'm going to duplicate that layer, and you can see it's going to changed a lot of the orientation and whatnot, but we're going to fix that in a second, right? And I'm going to drop this underneath, and then I can go onto this layer, and I can just delete this background image. And what I've done here, and you can see we can come back down into here now, is now I have this element, and then down here, if I hide this, you can see we have this, and what I can actually do is come in here and now delete this element. And what I've done is I've separated all of these three elements onto their own particular layers. So what you can actually do is you can, anything that you kind of pile on top of each other, you can just duplicate that and then begin to delete the elements that you don't need to kind of create that separation for you. So let's say, for example, we want to do this and we're going to have this change into multiple areas here. Again, I'm going to go into, well, we can continue with the line tool here. And I can create a new painting layer. I'm just going to drop this in underneath our little magical element that's kind of going on here. And again, I can take any image I want to and I can put it into this fill area here. And then I can begin to paint out this image. And we're not going to worry about its size or anything along those lines right now. We can just kind of put this in here. And then I can come back in here and I can adjust this, and let's shrink it down some. And we can now fade out that edge a little bit. And we can come back in and adjust these as well. So the smoother the more lines, the more of these image nodes, image nodes, I guess, that you create, the smoother the kind of, or the more rounded image that you can actually make. But we can also come in, we can do all the same things that we were doing before. We can go back over into here. We can lower down its opacity if we want to, or we can change its color. We can darken up the image. You can do all of these different elements with anything that you kind of possess that's over here. You can just drag it in and use it in so many different ways. And again, we can move this around and do any of those kinds of adjustments that we want to. Now, the cool thing about this is this will completely update in real time to your players, right? So what we can do is if for example, we want to transition between different elements, we can completely do that. So you're able to change those elements out, and you want to make sure you label these correctly so it's easy for you to do that. But we actually did this, a similar element to this in this ship that we did a while back. So on this particular ship, you can see we added in a bunch of different animations now to the background and whatnot. But in the ship itself, we have it divided into these different layers. And down here, I think it's in this one, we did something very, very similar. So what we did is we did like this interactive kind of map here that you can kind of like scroll around. Oh, I don't want to do that on that one, but here. So you can kind of just move this around so it would be like this cool like interactive map. So lots of fun and interesting stuff that you can kind of do to enhance all of those different elements together. Hopefully that answers your question on how to do it, Drake. Should be able to handle that pretty easily. Does anyone else have any other questions before we get into, oh, I see, no, there was no major announcements this week. Everything has already been released for this month with the 4.4 update. We're pretty much just doing any sort of fixes or whatnot that's kind of come up from that. Moving forward, we'll have animated images in all of the map packs that come out, or mostly from here on out. and we're doing some adjustments on some of the like theming and whatnot, but oh, good. Yeah, you bet. Anytime. Oh, yes. Awesome. So why don't we get back into let's look back at some of the images that we created last time. We did this swamp area, and we added some slow moving fog across it. Oh, I helped Drake figure out how to make a magic mirror kind of thing. My water bottle's in the way. I gotta move it here. So we did. Oh, that's that one. We just created this using a couple of different images and some fill elements, so that. Yeah, for sure. And again, what you can actually do from this Drake, if you want to, you can turn off. I would probably turn off some of these elements like this, and then you can actually export this. So if you wanted to, you could export this image, and then you could have it. So you can actually build any of the images that you want to inside of Fantasy Grounds itself, export that image, and then have your own collection of images that you kind of create inside of here. So once you've put that all together, you can export that, and then you can use it, and you can make several different ones as well. So this is one that we made last time, and we kind of went through a whole bunch of different ways that you can interact with the new system, especially with the export functionality, animated elements, and whatnot. And we did this, and we also did this one. And we created a whole bunch of different kind of stuff here with the new art pack that just was released. Oh yeah, yeah. If you had like your character portraits and whatnot, you can do all kinds of fun stuff with that. Like if you took their different portraits and then you could kind of collage them in the inside. Yeah, that would be really fun. So showing off some of this new functionality, what we actually did, and if we go into our assets here, you'll be able to see, I believe it's all in our campaign folder. We made a lot of our own images. So what we actually did is we took several other images and we made our own. And let's just open up our little test image here, and you can see that this is where we actually painted out these particular rocks themselves, created our own image record, re-imported it, and then kind of placed it around inside of here. We did the same thing with a water grouping. So what we actually did is we created our own little water elements here like this so that we could easily paint it across the entire map here. So what we're actually doing is starting to work on creating a good workflow, and for these creating more and more advanced images by putting a little bit more effort into certain elements like this. You can see here we made these like rocks that are like covered with moss. And then we can create our own groupings of images that we can then use over and over again. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot that you can do inside of here, Fizzy. So we're going to start building a new image today. So what do you guys think would be? I'm actually going to delete this layer here. So what I like to do, and I like to have in my new workflow is I'll use an image record like this that is just for creating images that I might need. In fact, we could create anything that you guys want to, and I could actually show you guys today how you can use the base image features to create anything that you want. And this is without using any sort of elements themselves, right? Like for example, if we go into, this is something that I showed a little while back, and we created a tank in here completely from scratch. So let's go to, here it is. And so we created this tank from scratch. It's all of these different elements kind of put together here. And it has a background here, but let's just delete that background. So here we have this, and then we have a time of day, which just adjusts the colors here a little bit. So we can delete that because that's not going to be exported either, right? And then we can actually go into our export functionality here. Oh, thanks so much, Talon. And you're not going to see this, but I get a save file, a little pop-up that kind of comes here. And I'm just going to save it as a tank image, and I'm going to save it as a PNG because I want to make sure that I have some of the elements that are kind of around here that are transparent. And I'm going to refresh this, and you're going to see I got this tank image, right? And this is something that I made completely inside of Fantasy Grounds. There was no image here before this, right? This is just a textured fills and image fills. And now I have it as an image that I can use in any sort of way possible, right? What I can actually do, and let me just demonstrate in this this area over here. I'll go into this my painting tab here, and I'll create a new painting layer and go into my stamp. And now what I can actually do is I can drag this in. You can see I have a single image here of this tank, which I can now use in any other image that I decide, right? I've built this image from the ground up, so you guys can actually create anything that you want to. So let me just delete this layer really quickly here, and we'll close this down. And let me just demonstrate this. So you guys give me an object that you want me to create, and I'm going to do this with just using the stroke and fill elements, but with the color. Just the color fills, like no textures whatsoever, and we can pretty much create anything that we want, from any sort of plant to any sort of image whatsoever. So what do you guys think we should make? What would be a cool thing for us to make here? And I'll show you guys how you can use all of these different tools to add in all of your shadows, all of your highlights, everything like that. And so do you guys have any particular image that you... A Lich's desk. Sure. So let's say, for example, right, like that's kind of like a conglomerate of a lot of images. Well, sure, we could do a desk. That would be much easier to do. We'll do that one next because that's just going to be a collection of different images that we can kind of put together. But what I really want to show you guys first before we get into that is our ability to build something that we might not have, right? So for a single image rather than a collection of images. So let's say, for example, you guys needed something in an adventure, or you wanted to put something onto the Lich's desk, right? Oh, a lantern? We could do a lantern? Sure. Let's do something that has a little bit more character to it, though. Let's do like a skull. So inside of our creation system here, right? First thing I'm going to do. Yeah, we could do a fountain. We could do all of those different things. But what we're going to do first here is I'm just going to create. We're going to add in our fill element, and we're going to have our stroke element here. And what we can do is come in here. Let's make this 100 by 100. And then we're just going to use this for scaling so that when we export our image, go back into our painting layer here. Let's create a new painting tab. I'm just going to grab this ellipse tool, right? And I'm going to hold down Shift so it's going to be a circle here. right? And this is going to be our base for our creation of our skull, right? We're going to have this, and we're going to do this a little bit rough at first, and then we're going to add in some different elements to it. Now I have skulls and whatnot in here, but this will be a good reference for you guys to kind of show you how you can do whatever you want to, and then we can export this as its own image, and then we can bring that in and put that onto our Lich's desk, which is what we're going to make next, okay? And so what we have is we have all of these different elements here now, right? We have this add element, and what we can do is begin to add in some additional kind of stuff here. And so here we can see we're starting to create the shape of our skull here. I'm going to actually grab this. Let's grab these and move this in a little bit. And we're going to do it kind of looking down on it a little bit. So we're going to actually add in some like eyes and whatnot, and then we can start to paint out some of the different shapes and things, right? But this will be a good base for us to kind of think about how you can use this system to create anything that you want within the game itself. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another painting layer, and this is going to be for let's do our eyes. So again, let's switch over. I'm actually going to do it with the line tool, and we're going to create some, let's see here, we'll do it like here. And we're gonna change this to black here in a moment, but I think we should put it over here like this. And then we can come in here and we can just make these dark. And I think what we'll do is we'll grab these and we'll just move them over a little bit. Let's go back into our line tool. Let's just make this black. Well, we can just drag down. Well, yeah, you could definitely have some artistic talent on doing this. But the way that the system is kind of set up, right? Like you can kind of move these lines around. You can change the shapes of things. Now, if you have like a decent reference, you can kind of build these right inside of here. And so our nose is kind of be like shaped like this. So let's do something like this. And now we can just come in here and let's go back down into this shape. What we want to do is we want to pull this in a little bit. And again here, let's move this up. And pull this out a little bit. I'll grab all of these and kind of move them over. We want to move this in. So if we kind of back out of here, you can see we're starting to get this nice shape going. Just do some minor adjustments. Yeah, something like this. And then what we can actually do, if we wanted to, we could come in and we could start to erase some of the stuff down here. Or we could go into our line tool once again, and let's come down here. We've got to make sure that we grab exactly what we have here. And then we can go into our subtraction line. And maybe we're going to do some little And we'll do this like less and less around the edges. So you have, the question is, how can you add a point to an already created line of shape? So if you go into these different overlap elements, we have an add and we have a normal. So if I want to add to this shape, all I have to do is click onto the add button. You have to make sure that you have exactly the same parameters that's already there. So if you just grab this and click on it, it will set up all of those for you, and then you can add elements to it. And then we can come into here, and then we can do all of these adjustments that we might want, right? So if I want to, I can begin to move some of this stuff in. These are a little bit too far out, so we're just going to do some adjustments here. And then we're going to make this, I'm going to create another painting layer. And the first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to come into these ones here, right? And we can do all kinds of different kind of stuff here. But what we're going to do is, actually, let's just make a new painting layer. And now I'm going to start to do like some shadows. And so I'm going to go back into my line tool. I'm going to go to my stroke. I want to turn my stroke off. And we're going to make this black. And let's create a shadow along this edge. And you're going to see how I'm going to kind of do this here. And I'm going to come into my tab over here. We're going to lower down that opacity, and then we're going to fade out this edge here. Got to move this stuff around a little bit. And let's fade that down a lot more, something like this. I think we should even change the color of this one down here. Let's make it a little bit more like yellowy. Maybe like this. Now, the larger you make this skull, the more kind of like detail you want to put into it. You can. Why don't we just kind of bring this one back like that? We just want to make some nice, like simple kind of shapes here, I think. Just something like this, maybe even a little bit. And then what I can do is I can come back into this line, and I will grab this, and you see it will set up all of those parameters for me, all the way from the fade out. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to set my fade to 0 though, because I want to have a little bit better kind of control over what I do here. And I'm just going to kind of come in here and add in some little other like shadowy kind of elements. And maybe come in here. You could do one here. It looks like this one's gotten a little bit strange here. But we can keep it pretty kind of cartoony looking for simplicity's sake. But we could also come, and I'm trying to do this using just the built-in kind of like painting tools here. And we can come back in, and we can actually fade some of this stuff out, I mean, if we want to. But we'd have to make it a bit bigger, and I think that this is going to be fine for what we're trying to achieve here. Now, if we want to, we can actually come in, and if we were to go into one of these kind of like stamped images, something like this, what I can actually do is add some of these kind of elements on top. Whoops, I want to do that. Lower down its opacity quite a lot. And let's do another painting layer here. And we'll do a little bit of like a cast shadow coming off of it. And we can come in here, and some of this stuff we'll want to move it over a little bit to make sure that we feel like that roundedness of things. I think what we'll do is we'll come in here and let's just lower down this opacity a little bit on the layer. Yeah, to something like this. And what we can do is we can now do something similar here. Whoop, we don't want that. For like a highlight. Great, so we have done a fairly decent little facsimile pretty quickly, built right inside of Fantasy Grounds. And you could spend as much time as you wanted to, like in the creation kind of process here, right? We could do this like a whole bunch of different stuff, and we could kind of put this all together. But the gist of it that I'm trying to put over is now we can export this image. And I'm going to export it again as a PNG file, and we'll call it skull. And if we refresh this now, here's our skull. And what we can actually do now is we can delete these. We have our skull all made. Now let's go in and we're going to start to make our Lich's desk, right? So the first thing that we can do is we can come into here and let's do table. And we'll find well, actually, maybe we should just type in desk. I guess table will work better. A suitable element that we can kind of work with here. Yeah, maybe we'll do something with a nice wooden texture to it. Yeah, maybe something like this. Or we could do we could do like, let's do something like, use this one. So again, what we can do is we can come into our stamp tool. Let's grab this. And we can make it whatever size we wish. I'm going to turn it this way so it's a little bit easier. And the next thing we might want to do is place something down that will be like some sort of mat or cloth or whatnot. Um, oh, you know what we could probably use is like a whoops. Like a rug or a carpet. Yeah, something. And maybe we'll do bring down, change its color a little bit. Maybe we should make it more like blue, so it kind of goes against the color there. Whoops, we want to go to our campaign folder, and here's the skull that we just made, right? Let's find some books. So we can just type in book. Here we have like all these different kind of tomes and whatnot. We can start to place these things around. We have some that are kind of like standing up like this. What other things might be on a desk like this? Probably like bottles. Oh yeah, light source like a lantern or something. Make this one a little bit oblong. Yeah, we can do a candle. Oh, a jar with his bottom jaw. Let's do candle. Oh yeah, we could do like gems, all kinds of different things like that. Let's do a gems. Oh yeah, you're just gonna have some coffee. Yeah, a pile of coins. That sounds good. a scroll. And we can add in let's see what else we can have, like yeah, something like some sort of decorative. And then we can actually like put some ingredients in there and whatnot. Oh yeah, cool scepter. Sure. I don't know if there is one that is. Whoops. Yeah, the only thing is, and what we're going to actually be doing, yeah, I guess we don't. We can make a scepter though. One of the things that we can't do is export animated elements. So what we want to do is we're just going to be creating some different stuff that we can be using in other areas. Yeah, so we can't export any sort of animations. We can only export static images. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to be working on, and what we'll do next is, see, in this particular scenario, let's say we do want to add a scepter in here. Maybe it's super important to our storyline. Maybe it's whatever it might be. And let's change this, the name of this to Lich Desk. And I'll go back over into here. Let's create a new image record. And then here, what I can actually do is I can start to create. Hello. Let's grab that. And we can come over here. If you guys don't know, you can just minimize that. We can move it over to the side. What we can actually do, let's close that down and we'll have a little bit more space here, is we can start to build out our scepter here. Again, we'll go into our stamp tool, and so we can just kind of come up with all of the different elements that we might want to be able to use in order to do that, right? So I think probably like the Victorian art pack, or maybe some of the like other stuff we might be able to grab and use. We can also go into like our brushes and whatnot if we need to make like the base of the scepter itself. But we'll just kind of have a look, right? Because we have like some of these elements like this. And what we can actually do is we can begin to extract particular areas of images, excuse me, if we want to use it as such. But we'll find some bases of some additional elements here that we might want to be able to use and create anything that we want to, right? So let's say, for example, if we were going to use like this little section of the candelabra, we can actually add that in to as a fill element and extract any sort of bit that we might want to use here. So let's turn off our stroke, go to the fill, and here what we can actually do is drag out a little section here, right? Go over into our area, and I can kind of pull this over here. actually want to kind of just like... See, so let's say we wanted to use that as like a handle for something. Now we can export that image and we'd be able to start to build off of that, right? I'm going to actually find something that's a little bit better for us than that, but that's the kind of the general idea. I think that there is, what we can actually do is use maybe like a weapon of some type. Let's look up like sword, and here we have like a whole bunch of different types of swords and whatnot. And that's in the, let's see, yeah, in our siege. Oh yeah, interior too. I think we'll have a lot of good stuff for us. So let's go there. This is where we want to go. Let's go into our decorations. Yeah, like a mace or something along those lines. And here we have like a bunch of different kind of random stuff that we can kind of use. That one might be better for certain parts of it. Yeah, maybe something like... Yeah, why don't we do... Let's do like... think that we have... Yeah, we could do something like with these. I think we can do something... Gonna grab this. We'll go over into our... Get rid of our fill. Let's see what else we could use here. I like that kind of like reflective looking material. Maybe we'll do something like that. What we should do is put this underneath. And then we can add, we'll do like something here. We can actually squash this, actually. It's a little bit too much. And we'll put it here. Let's do it here too. We'll have a little bit more consistency. Yeah, now let's add in like a little bit of like a grip on there. I think that there's like a cool, in the Goblin map pack. In our brushes, we have like this, nope, not that, this cloth brush. So now we can come into here. Yes, it's a royal toilet paper holder. Exactly. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be like this. Not sure why it's doing that, but let's just do a couple like across, I guess. And then we can come in and kind of make some adjustments here. And then I'll grab this. And we'll make it a little bit darker here. We'll add in some shadows. And I'll elongate it quite a lot. Boom, and we've created our own little makeshift scepter. So what we'll do is we'll go to export. And make sure we save it as a PNG file. And now if we go into our campaign folder, not data, and we can refresh it, And here it is, all created. So now what we can do is we can open this back up, and we can go grab this. And maybe we want to change its color now, so we can make it a little bit more like this. Maybe what we'll do is we'll set it like here. We'll flip it so it's shadows kind of coming on this direction. Whoops, didn't want to do that. I think we'll do like some herbs and stuff in here. Yeah, we're demonstrating how you can create all kinds of different elements and then export them and reuse them in different images and whatnot. Yeah, non-intended pieces, cups and candlesticks and let's see, what's that? Let's look for a plant. It's got like a plant pot. We'll grab one of these. And then we can look up like, we'll do like a, oh yeah, some cards. I think it's, but I think that there is like, all right, so we have a pretty good base here of a lot of different elements, right? So now what I'm going to do, see, this is all one layer. Now I'm just going to grab this and we'll add some shadows to this. And the great thing about doing this is that you can really put in as much work as you want to, because what you're actually doing is you're investing in an image that you'll be able to use multiple times in the future, right? Make that a little bit oblong so I can go along the edge of some of these books easier. We can build along here. And we can make it round again, and we can do some stuff on these gems and these bottles. And our little skull we made. And let's do a couple of larger kind of indiscriminate ones, just to kind of break things up a little bit. And now we can go the other direction as well, right? Let's make this like light, and we can start to do a couple of little like highlights and whatnot, especially on like these bottles. Maybe like on the top of the skull. And again, we can make this a bit oblong, so we can go along the edge of these. See, we can spend the extra time to put in a lot of these little like details and whatnot. Because we can, we're really investing in being able to use this multiple times in the future. You like that? Now we have a fairly well decorated little table that we've created. There's lots of different elements here. If we go over, you can see all the different painted kind of elements that we have here. And again, let's go over. Now we can export this, and we'll call this Lich's desk. And again, we'll update. And here we have it. Oh, I think I saved it as a JPEG, not a PNG. Let's do that again. PNG. And here we have it all saved, and it's got all of that information all put in there, right? So we spent a little bit of extra time creating this asset from this conglomerate of other things, right? We made a couple of different stuff that we wanted to along the way, and each time we do this, we're creating a new element that we can do now. So now we're going to have to go and let's build, let's rename this. And because I can just delete this, whatever I've created here, I don't have to, but I certainly can. But if we call this, let's call it like the Lich's study. And it will build like the whole kind of room here. And as we progress through this, any sort of element that we come across that we think that we might need, we can just now create it inside of Fantasy Grounds, which is just, I think it's unbelievably powerful here, right? So we can delete this whole little section over here. Let's create a new painting tab. And we can kind of, the first thing that we can do is we can come into our element over here. Let's go to our stamp. And here's our little table here. And let's make it something that's going to be appropriate. What's our grid? Yeah, okay. So we don't want it to be too large, right? So maybe something like this size. And this can be the base by which that we're going to kind of build around now. So what do you guys think for different elements here? What kind of room do you think it would be? Do you think we'll have a stone floor? Do you think we'll have a wooden floor? Yeah, we can definitely make a cool chair. We can take a chair, we can add all kinds of different stuff to it, make it very elaborate. But what kind of floor do you think that we should have here? Should we do a stone or wooden floor, or maybe is it a dirt floor, like it's down in underneath the ground? What kind of location do you think this is? Cobblestone? All right, we'll do stone. Maybe something like this. Yeah, let's do this one. Okay, we'll do an underground dungeon. We'll do maybe something like this size. Let's go in here, and I'm going to make this a bit smaller for a pattern. And then we can darken it up a little bit. Maybe something like this. And we can add in some. We'll add in a whole bunch of different stuff. Why don't we start with the floor first here, and we'll start to add in. Um, we'll add in some cracks here. I think that these should be a little bit more transparent. I don't want it to be a loop. Seems when I drag it, it does it. Hmm. Seems it's going to keep doing that. There we go. We got. I guess that's one way to kind of circumvent it. We can add some cracks like this. We can grab this. Lower down its opacity some. Like that. And I'll go into the winter art package. Let's go into the effects. Grab something like this. We'll add some texture here. Right? Let's cracks. We could probably do like some piles of like dirt around as well. And I'm gonna add some color to this as well. Let's make it a little bit on the like the green kind of side. Like a little bit like moldy. Let's make it a little bit darker. And then we can do like some darker ones as well. Nice. Yeah, we can grab some of this, like these kind of elements too, right? And we can make them kind of look like dirt. And then we'll lower down its opacity a little. Right, we'll make this like kind of like a crypty kind of area. And then we can start to do like some other furniture pieces. What do you think we should do the chair next? Do you think it should be like this big, huge, elaborate chair? I think this one would probably work pretty well. I think we should angle it slightly though. this. And then we can do like some like webs coming off of it and stuff. Yeah, maybe we'll create like a, so what we could actually do here is, let's delete this. We'll do some similarities here. We can build like some like decorative elements to this. No, we don't want to do that. We want to do like maybe we do. No, that's going to be a lot. If we go into some of this stuff, I think like we have some of these like cloth elements. I think it should have like all of these like tattered elements on it as well. Yeah, maybe we'll add like some bones and stuff to it. Are you sure you want to sit in that chair? Let's do a couple more skulls. I think if we do one that's a little bit more. Oh yeah, maybe we should do that one. Move this up. And then we can start to do like all kinds of cool construction and stuff with the bones. Have some of this stuff like poking out like here. Oh, thanks. And then we can do like maybe we'll move these skulls. We'll put them up here. Yeah, probably some of the order that we did this in should have been a little bit different, but I think it'll be okay. And now what we can do is we can add in some additional kind of stuff, right? I think we have some like webs. Yeah, like cobwebs. I'll make this a lot lighter. And we'll make it a bit darker too. Like this. And then we can make it lighter on some of this stuff. And now what I'll do is I'll grab this element, create a new layer, bring this down. We'll add in some nice shadows on this. You can go on through all of this stuff here, add in little bits of stuff here and there. Yeah, cool. So now we have our base chair here. And what we can do again is we can export this as a PNG. Call it Lich's chair. Go back into our campaign folder. You want to make sure you always refresh it because that's when it will pop up. Here it is. Switching back over to here now, we can just jump over. Make it a little bit rotated, something like this. Super cool. Now, do you guys have any questions about anything that we've done so far? It's all pretty self-explanatory, right? And the great thing about doing it this way is when we do these collections of images and we export them into these new elements, we now have this chair we could use forever, right? Like, so we can spend that extra time in that creation process. It's not ever like a wasted effort for a single map. It's now you're creating these conglomerates which you can be used over and over and over again. All right, well, if there's no questions, I'm going to take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll continue to work on this really cool room here that we're making. So if you guys want to... yeah, you've improved a little bit? Awesome. So if you guys want to hang out just for a minute, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. So just hold on, and we'll have a little bit of an intermission here, and then we'll continue working on this. Maybe we'll come up with some other stuff for us to create in the little side image thing here. So yeah, if you guys just want to hang out, I'll be back shortly. All right, and we're back. Thanks everyone for hanging out for a minute there while I took a short break. We'll get right back into the creation process of our liches study here. I think that one of the things that I'm going to do next here is, well, let's move this out of the way. We can remove these now. But what I can do is I'm going to go back right into here and let me grab this image, which is this texture that we were using to kind of break up our floor pattern here a little bit. And I want to do the same kind of thing on top of these guys. I'll do it on this layer. And we'll make this a little bit lighter here. And I can just kind of drop this right over the top of a lot of this stuff, just to kind of break up some of the image here. This one's a little bit too much right there. Let's put it like over here. And maybe we'll do a darker one as well. And let's increase its opacity here a little bit. We might even want to make this a little bit like redder. Yeah, maybe something like this. And that's going to give us a little bit more consistency with the surrounding kind of images here. So what other things do you think that we would have in this study? Maybe what we should actually do is grab some web. Yeah, bookcase. Oh yeah, portal. I think we'll go down here and we can do some like this. A magic mirror portal. Yeah, magic circles and stuff for sure. So we could do something. So if we go into one of the things I like to use for stuff like that is some of the spell templates. So here we have all kinds of different, and these are kind of set up to be like square spell templates, but some of them still can work really good in these kind of scenarios. And we even have it's like the magic circle here that I'm created. And we have generic ones as well, which can be used pretty well in addition. Now, oh, great, Drake. What we can actually do in these kind of scenarios is we can do something very similar to what we've done in the other elements here. And I'll show you kind of how you can use these like that, right? So we have all of these different kind of like setup of these images here. And what we want to do is just kind of extract a bit of it that we want to use, right? Like maybe something like this. Or some of these other elements. So we can use these in lots of different ways, right? So let's go up. I'm going to actually use one of these ones like this that has some additional kind of elements to it. Maybe we could use something like that, or I think we can just use this one. So what we could actually do, as you can see here, is maybe we'll set up a like a summoning circle over here or something, right? Or maybe we'll do it like right here. I'm actually going to put this on its own layer, and I'm going to demonstrate a couple of different things. I'm going to do this over and over again just to help solidify some of these techniques for doing some of this stuff, right? So if I just plop this down on the ground, something like this, you can see that we have a very kind of intrusive image. It doesn't really feel like it's like a magic circle. We could create our own. We can do all kinds of different stuff here. But what we can actually do, I wonder if we could use like something like this as well. But when we come into our layers tab here with something this is all on one layer here, we can lower down its opacity, right? And that instantly kind of brings it into a little bit better of an interaction here. But what I'm going to actually do here, I'm going to cancel that, and we'll go in here and we'll delete this. Is instead of using it as a stamp, what I'm going to do is to turn off my stroke, and I'm going to drag and drop it in as a fill element. Because what we can actually do here is I can drag out a fill. Didn't quite work the way it's supposed to. Hold on. Yeah, we're going to have to hold on. Sometimes it gets a little bit wonky, so we'll have to just close it and reopen it here. And if we go back into here, let's turn off our stroke, and we'll go over to our fill element, and we'll do that. We could even do it in here. We could create our own in here if we were going to use it again later. We might even want to do it that way, right? Turn off our stroke, we drag this in here, and we pull out an element like this, right? And we can make it whatever size that we need it to be. So let's say we're going to do something like this. Because what we can actually do is we can come back into here and we can go to subtraction, right? And then what I can do is I can hold down Alt and Shift and kind of subtract out from the middle here. And what I've actually done is I'm just kind of showing exactly this element here, right? Go back into here, and we can fade out those edges a little bit. Maybe even a little bit more to create like this nice little subtlety that's kind of going on here. And if I want to, I can pull these, I can move these things around, create some variations in here if I want. Looks like we got some doubles in here. But if I want this to be a little bit more irregular, I can move all this stuff around and do all of these readjustments. Right now I can even come into here, and if I want to change these colors, I can. I could bring it all the way down or move it up. As you can see, we got some nice little variations here. See how this interacts? Let's just actually, we can probably just delete that one right there. And then we can move back into here. Then now let's bring that color back up. As you can see, here it is. But if we wanted to change it to whatever colors we want, I'm going to leave it the way it is for right now, but we could even change its opacity, bring it down a little bit, so it will just be kind of like that. But for right now, we're going to keep it just like this, and then I could export that. And I could do it exactly the same way with any of those other images, right? So now we'll call this magic circle. We want to make sure we're saving it as a PNG file. And again, we can come back in. We could do it with any one of these images. We could pull out certain aspects of it, whatever we want to do. Again, we're going to go into our campaign file and make sure that we hit our refresh. And here it is. We have that image all extracted for us, just like that. And now we can come in here, and we don't have to worry about this anymore. We can switch over to our stamp tool. We have this nice little image that we've created, and now we can lower down its opacity. We can change any of the parameters that we want to, as far as like colors go. Right? Maybe we want to do something like this. And we might even, what we can actually do from this kind of scenario here is, right, we could stamp one, we can make one smaller. Maybe we'll do like something like this. And again, we could do the same thing here. We could reuse the same image and start to build like these conglomerate stuff here. Oh yeah, we could totally do that, right? So if we wanted to grab this and we could move it to something like this. But the point is that every time that we kind of do this, right? If we wanted to make any sort of these images and build up all of these different stuff, and then once you begin to work in this kind of like thought process, you can see how advanced these images are that we've begin to create as we put these conglomerates together, as we build these things. And anytime that you run into a scenario where there's something that you don't have, you can just build it, and then you'll have it forever, like we did with this scepter, this chair. And as you can see, like the fidelity of the images, as we begin to build this up, I'm actually going to lower down the opacity of this a little bit more so that we have a really good idea of this. And you can see how well everything really begins to come together here. Everything really starts to become a really narrative focus with each element. And I think that in working in this way, and I can't stress this enough, you can spend the extra time to put in a lot of that stuff and then save it out as your own individual file that can be used anytime in the future. Yeah, that truly is. I think so as well. So let's go back up into our furniture areas here. We should probably begin to name these so we don't get too confused. So let's do, this is our floor. And we'll call this one Magic Circle. This is our chair. And we can add more, I'm just going to call this one Furniture because we're going to add in some other stuff here. And let's go to, we want to do like a bookcase, right? We have all of these like stacks of books too, so we can do, but we have some like pre-made bookcases here. So I think we can grab something like this. And that's the thing, is you can build these in here. We'll grab something like this, but I could also, let's say I want to, and again, we'll delete that layer. Let's do this. Stamp this in here, and then we can start to grab some of these things, right? Adding in any sort of decorations that we want to. We could add in some like candles and all kinds of different stuff, and then what I can actually do is create another layer. We'll bring it down in underneath. Whoops. And we can kind of move these to make them more appropriate to where they might be. And we can come here. I'm not sure what happened to this one. That's there. Yeah, I want to put this down here. That's that. Not sure where that one went, but let's grab this again then, I guess. Whoops, I didn't want to put it there. What I should actually do is this. Should be a little bit more narrow as well. Let's do that again. Yeah, it should be something like that. Yeah, that's probably enough layers of something like that. And then what we can actually do is we can start to add in some of these other elements on top, right? Like we can do, maybe we'll do a couple of candles on it. I'm going to make sure we put it on the right layer. And then we can do, let's do, yeah, maybe we'll do this one instead. It kind of sticks off a little bit like that. Let's grab some of those webs. And we can grab, I think I'll do some texture on this. So we'll do our shadows as well. And we'll elongate this. And we might even want to do one that's like a little bit poking out from the bottom here. And I think we'll do a little bit of texture on top of it as well. So we can go into our winter art pack. And we'll lower down our opacity and maybe make this a little bit like something like that. Add some texture over the top of this stuff. And then we can export this. Make sure we do a PNG. Call it bookcase. There's our bookcase. And then we can come over here and we can just drag and drop it right in here. And so what we've done is we've created an element that we can now use multiple times. You can see it's got all of the different stuff that we've kind of put in there. And maybe we're going to drop a couple of them back here. And I'll flip it this way. Maybe we'll overlap it a little bit, or maybe we'll do this. I think what we'll do is we'll move it so it's a little bit more centered. Something like that. We could even probably move them like here. Yeah, you guys can see how quickly you can kind of start to build up this library of stuff, which is great. Now, if I want to, I could come back in at any time to these elements, right? And let's say I decided that this stuff, I'm gonna remove this because it seems a little bit weird and repeating. But if it doesn't bother you, feel free. But you can remove that stuff and make it a little bit more generic, and then you can add those things in as like little pieces. So let's do our basic kind of layout here. I'm gonna do walls next. And we can go to our stone wall. And we probably want to do brush so that we can might want to do something that's a little bit rough like that. That's a little bit too stylized. Or maybe this one. This one looks pretty good. Let's go with that one. I'll just go into here. We'll turn our fill off and we'll put this into our stroke. And this is just going to be a rectangle. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller here. I'm going to hold down Control so it snaps to the grid. And then I can move right around just like that. Now, what I can actually do here, you can see here we have a mitered or a beveled corner. If I don't want to have that, right, if I can come back in here and we can delete that. Come back in here, we can change that corner type so we can have a rounded one. So if I do that, you can see that the corner itself, it's going to be like more curved around the edge. And if I want, I can also have like a mitered one, which is where it's going to be a very angular kind of corner like that. So what you want to do is when you're using these different corner styles, what it does is it's how it calculates the image going around that edge. Now with this kind of setup like this, what we can actually do, and I think what we'll do is let's go back down to the furniture. We'll probably just put one of these back here behind him. And we can kind of just slide this under the wall like that so it kind of fits in there. Something like this. No, so actually the way that it's working, Spencer, what I'm doing is I'm compressing this down into a single image when we export it. So what it does is it flattens the entire thing and exports it, and we can export that as a PNG or as a JPEG. So once it's made into a single image, then you can do all of the normal adjustments like color variations, the opacity of it. You can change its shape. But any sort of image element that's there is going to be there. So no, you can't erase any single part of an image after the fact. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, no problem. All right, well, let's add in some shadows and stuff into this particular area here. So I'm going to create a new painting layer and call this one Shadows. And we might do some additional kind of shadow stuff in other areas. But in the map module, I actually have like a shadow brush, which is great for doing these things around here. And so what we can do is we can come back over into here. We can do this. I'm going to make this all the way down black, but we're going to lower down its opacity quite a lot. Maybe something like that. And change its size here. So what I can actually do, and again, I can keep the mitered corner, but I think what I want for this one is a rounded one. And what I can do is I can just pull out like a shadow for those edges. And if I want, I can do another smaller one and another layer to add in a little extra around that edge. And you can see how well that kind of just like drops in there. Now if I want this to be like strictly coming out from underneath my walls, all I'd have to do is just drop it down in underneath, something like that. I could even do it underneath my furniture so that I can, you can kind of create this really kind of cool effect. I kind of like it to be like this, so it kind of also gives a little bit of a shadow for those edges. Really, really well like that. And we could even do, in the same token, I could do something like this, like here, like coming out from underneath a table or something along those lines. So see something like here, we could do this. It's just a really simple kind of brush that you can kind of use to do that kind of stuff with. Find it very useful. Especially now with the new export feature and how it only really integrates into using the painted elements and not the effects layers. I like using the effects layers when it's going to be like a finished image, but if you're ever going to export it, you want to make sure that you use an image to do all of your shadow content. And again, we can kind of do something similar. We'll do some like nice rounded shadows for some of these areas. And I'll just kind of create some stuff like this. And we can elongate this a bit and do one like here. Maybe along the edge of that. And we could even accentuate a little bit more shadow on the backside of these books. Bring this back to being round again, and I can bring this down over here and do something like that. And we could even add in some additional kind of stuff to bring this stuff out, if we so wish. And that's looking pretty good. So does anybody else have any questions about any of this stuff? I think that it's kind of getting to be more and more self-explanatory as these systems kind of become a little bit more understood, you know, like the whole like export features and how powerful it really has become. Yeah, it's well, you know what it is. I think that the system itself is pretty simple, but it's one of those things, from my point of view anyway. I'm kind of ingrained into it, so it's hard for me to. Uh, but I think that the system itself is fairly simple, but the complexity comes from the creative ways that you can delve into it and use it, you know? The image creation tools inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity, I think, are as advanced and as well put together as an actual like map making program. And that and you have it like right inside of the virtual tabletop. So I think that it's basically if you combined a classic virtual tabletop with a really robust map making system, right? So you could literally use Fantasy Grounds just for its map making features, I think. I think that the maps that we can produce inside of here are some of the best that I've seen from coming from any sort of map making software. Yeah, now that you can export it, you can, for sure. So what are some other elements do you think that do you think this guy would be maybe like a necromancer? We could do like we could create some other kind of elements in here as well. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for hanging out, Chaotic Good. Really appreciate you stopping by. And if you ever have any questions about the system, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to do whatever I can to help explain something or... Ooh, it's a master illusionist. That's kind of cool. Yes, we got to do a portal. Why don't we do the portal and that'll finish us up for today, and then next week we'll finish up this whole thing. So what kind of, and we'll actually make a portal over here. So let's delete this stuff. So what kind of portal do you think this would be? Do you think it would be like a stone structure? Do you think it would be made of bones? What kind of portal do you think that this would be like? I think we'll start off with like one of these like stone slabs, maybe something like this for its base. Lava rock, like black rocks. That might be kind of cool. Yeah, or obsidian. And I'm gonna make this a little bit narrower. No, we want that to be a 1. And I'm gonna make this a little bit longer. Yeah, I think that 3 is probably good enough. Oh yeah, we could maybe try and create some crystals. Yeah, it sounds fun. So the first thing we'll do is we'll make this nice and dark. Maybe something like this for our base. And we can make some further adjustments because we're going to do we can add some darkness to this and also do some nice like highlights and whatnot. And then we'll kind of build this on top here. And then we'll be able to export this and be able to use that any way we wish, right? So I'm thinking what we can actually do here is the first thing that we're going to do, well, we're going to do this in 2 stages. We'll create another layer here. And I think we'll use like a water fill for the actual portal itself. So I can just type in water fill. Let's see here. Let's just do water then. Might not be like water. We might have to use like something else. So we have like these water. Let's see here. All this underwater stuff. You might just be able to use something like that. Yeah, let's try this. I think what we can actually do is we drag and drop it like that. We can squash it. Hold down Control so I don't. I think I want to do something that's lighter than that though. Might use something like this. Yeah, we'll use like this. That should work pretty well. Yeah, I think that that'll be nice. And what we can actually do is we can use some of this stuff to kind of build up some stuff around it. So let's go here. want it to be here. Do like this kind of like turbulence. And then we can go above it as well. I'll make this a little bit more transparent. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what we can actually do, I think I'm going to move it back a little bit. So we can grab all of these, and then we can go into our Layers tab, and then we can just kind of grab it and move it all together. So we move it back to something like that. And then what we'll do is we'll go into, let's find some good rocks. I think actually we can probably use the ones in the new grassland map pack. So we'll go into decorations, and here we have some like these nice like shaped rocks, but we're going to make them a lot darker. So we're going to create a new painting layer. We're going to drop this one down here, and we're going to do some stuff down here. So again, we're going to go into our stamp tool, drop this over like this. And I'm going to make these a bit darker. You know, we're going to make them kind of like obsidian here, like these lava stones. And I'm actually going to grab this. I'm going to grab this hexadecimal code. But the reason why I did it this way is what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to set this back up to white. And I'm going to do it on a layer basis, right? But I wanted to grab that code first. So I'm going to start to build out some of these like rock shapes down here. And we can use these different ones. And we just kind of want to do create this like conglomerate down here of like these stones. And you can see when we come back over into our layers tab, I can hit Control V, and you can see that's going to change the whole layer. So what I can actually do is when I come back over into here, anything that I kind of stamp, and I can do some like some other stuff that's kind of like poking out here a little. We might even want to get rid of that base. We might even want to build it all with like these random kind of stones, right? So if I come down here and I move this out of the way, let's get rid of this. What I can actually do is maybe grab some different like shapes of rocks and whatnot. I like this kind of like natural. And then we can like build in some maybe like some crystal looking stuff that's kind of like poking out and around. And what I'll do is I'll also let's create a new painting layer up there. And again, we're going to do the same thing, hit Control V to change that. And we'll start to paint on top of here. Sure we have our stamp tool selected. And we can change some of these as well, make these like a little bit more elongated. And we can do some like small ones, like floating out here. Maybe even like this. And I think what we'll do is let's do this one as well. But down here, I think we'll do. Let's grab some of these other. See which one do we have here? But I think we'll change this color a little bit. But we'll put some of these larger ones down here. I'm going to move this one in a little bit because I want to accentuate that curve. Yeah, that's cool like that. Yeah, very cool. And we can come into it on this layer tab here, right? And I'm going to just make these ones down here just a little bit lighter. Maybe something like that. That's a little bit too light. Or maybe we'll make them a little bit darker. Maybe we'll bring this down to like 58. Yeah, like 50 across the board. Yeah, let's do that. Now you can see we got all of this like cool textures and whatnot going on. So what I'm actually going to do is we'll come in here. Let's do another layer, and I'm going to add in some little highlights and stuff. And again, what we'll do is we'll lower down the opacity of this. We might want to do some that are kind of we might want to make this a little bit feeling like it's illuminated, so we can do like some highlights coming from the edges here. So I'll start off just by doing a little bit around like this. And I'm going to go into the here, and I'm going to lower down the opacity of this a bit. Let's go over here. And I'm gonna change this to like 0.3, so it's a little bit elongated. So I can do things like this. Let's go along like these edges. And maybe we'll do a little bit like that. And we'll do this. Do a little bit right there as well. Yeah, that's starting to look pretty cool. And now we've created our little portal here, and we could do all kinds of different like little magical things floating around and whatnot. But let's export this. And again, we're going to do a PNG. We'll call this portal. All the way up again into our campaign folder. And we'll refresh it, and here's our portal that we just made, all exported. Now we can come in here. Again, we can go down into, we'll do it on our furniture layer, and we'll just drag and drop it right there, and boom. We have this really cool portal. Let's do it like kitty corner in the room, like over here. And what we can actually do from this now is, let's say we can go back into our shadows if we wanted to. We can do like some kind of shadows that are like cast off of it and whatnot. But what I'd like to do is, because we're just about out of time here, I'm going to go into an effects layer. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to use an effects layer to make this feel like it's a little bit more illuminated. And so I'm going to go over and let's do an adjust colors. And with this, I'm going to actually like increase the blue here a bit. Something like that. And then we're going to add a mask. And what we can actually do here is kind of make this feel a little bit illuminated, and we'll remove these ones. But we'll blur out those edges a little bit. And we can adjust this, right, to give it like a nice big glow. And what we can actually do, and if we want to, we can kind of move this back a little bit so it's not so. And we can even do some bits like it's glowing out onto the floor here a little bit. And we'll bring that back a little. We could actually probably do two layers. We'll have this nice bright one. We might even want to increase that, right, to do something like this, so it's really kind of glowy. And then we could create another effects layer. And in this one, again, we could increase the brightness here a little bit, add a mask, and then we could do this one much more subtle. We'll do this so that we can kind of see what's going on here. Blur that out quite a bit, and then again, we want to increase that blue a little, but then we can bring it down so that it's a lot less. It's just very subtle there, as you can see. And glowing out onto the floor. You might want to increase it a little bit, maybe something like that. And blur that out all the way. Yeah, you can put in all the sounds and everything. But look at how great that looks. I think that that's really cool. And we could even go in, if we wanted to change the colors and whatnot, we could totally go in and do all kinds of different stuff. And we could add some animation over the top of that now and do lots of things. So if we wanted to maybe add another effects layer, and let's put in a water. Again, we'll add a mask, and we might want to do like this whole area over here. So we'll do like something like this. And we might want to bring down that intensity a little bit. We might even want to get rid of most of that droplet so that it's just kind of like this, a little bit like this. Bring the speed down quite a lot, because then we could increase the and again, we'll blur out that stuff. Make that feel like that there is like this energy that's kind of going across there. Yeah. Very cool, guys. Super fun. So we're going to call it there for today. We got a lot done. We went over a whole bunch of different stuff. made some really cool images, and we've set this up to be a quite a cool little map here. So what we'll actually do next time is we're going to totally finish this up. Yeah, no problem, Jiminy. And so hopefully we'll learn some new techniques and whatnot next time as well. Experiment with some of these new features and figure out some really cool stuff that we can kind of do here. So, yeah. Before I go, does anyone else have any questions, or is there anything that I did that they're not quite sure how I did it, or is there anything that I can help clarify in any way? That's okay. It'll be on YouTube, and you can watch it at any time. Awesome. Well, if there's yeah, I'm sure that there is. Um, I've used the map, the both overland maps, like regional maps and lots of other stuff several times. I wouldn't know exactly, but if you go and look at all of the different streams on YouTube, certainly you should be able to find one pretty easily. Great, guys. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I really enjoy it, and I really appreciate it. So I'll be back here this next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you guys want to come back, that would be great, and we will continue this one. And have a great week, all.